Good morning and welcome to KTN Life and Style. This is Inspiration Monday. My name is Mugure Gaduru. Hashtag is KTN Life and Style. Go on social media, show us some love. And today on Perspectives, we're talking about a topic that affects very many of us, especially the youth. And now I have a lovely panel here that will join me in discussing this topic, which is depression. Have you ever come across depression? Have you ever felt it? Do you even know what depression is? So I'll start with my guests from my extreme right. You can introduce yourself, tell us what you do.
All right. Hi guys, my name is Steve Mushiri. I am an entrepreneur and also psychologist. I do training and wellness. I train on emotional wellness and also, mostly advocacy.
Okay.
Yes.
First of all, let me start by saying got 10 Mogen. Yeah, just to prove.
Yes.
Just to prove that I'm not a chokora.
So I'm sure you're all familiar with this face. This is my show, Brian, so don't come here shining. Introduce yourself. Kwampole.
Okay, my name is Brian Zuma. I'm a TV host and presenter at KTN, BTV, to be particular. I have a sports show that runs from Monday to Friday, 1 to 2 p.m. And yes, I'm a veteran here at Life and Style because I'm one of the first.
Yes, fast hosts.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Karibu sana.
Well, like you guys, I'm in the glorious world of television.
Yeah.
I am a TV broadcast journalist. My name is Eugene Murray. I work for CGT in Africa. So, yeah.
Karibuni sana. So it's, as you can see, men, I'm feeling very special because I'm the only female here. But we're talking about a topic that actually affects most men. I'm sure there are women there also who have it, but mostly affects men. So maybe you can start by telling us what exactly is depression.
Depression is a mental health disorder that affects your mood. It affects your brain, the way it alters your brain activity, especially it's a clinical depression. So it affects the way you basically do your day-to-day activities. So it's luckily it's something that can be treated and managed. Yeah.
Brian, what do you think depression is?
Just as you said, depression is that condition whereby someone feels you're down, you're low, in just layman's language, because so many men, as you've said, so many men go through this because men like bottling up things. Unlike women who will open up with the girls, when they meet up with the girls, they open up their emotional stories, their emotional whatever. With men, most of the time, even when we meet up, you find that we're talking about very, very different things, you see, from whatever we are going through in our lives, because we tend to believe that as a man, you have to bottle it up. You're not supposed to express yourself, because when you express yourself, it's like you're diminishing that manliness in you. So just in a nutshell, I think it's that condition that puts you down. You're in thoughts. You can't say you're sad. You can't say you're over anxious. You can't say you're this or that, but you're just there. You see, yeah.
Eugene, what do you think depression is?
Okay, the layman's part, mine, would be to say depression is a disease, because that's one part that people mostly ignore. It's not something that you just build up. It's a disease that affects your state of mind actively. But what we can actively say is depression does not have a face. You cannot look at somebody and tell,
That they're depressed?
yes,
Yeah.
because half the people who end up suffering from this, not just depression, any mental health issues, they're usually half the time the most cheerful people around us, right? They bring joy, they exude vibrance like around people generally. So it's a condition that affects your state of mind, affects how you live day to day, but doesn't exactly have a face. You cannot look at someone and tell. It goes, yeah, like this.
Do you think people misuse the word depression? Like when I'm just sad and then I'll be like, I'm depressed.
Yeah,
I think people know the difference. It's true.
Yeah, I think people do because of maybe because they don't know what exactly the symptoms of depression is. For example, some people can be sad because of one or two, three things, and they think I'm into depression. from a psychologist's point of view, you have to have at least 2 weeks of symptoms for you to be to know to go and get diagnosed with depression. You know, yeah, and also the other thing is you can have stress, and sometimes stress can really make you feel sad, and that doesn't mean you are depressed. So many people might, as you say, actually sometimes misuse the word. But what I know is depression is actually it's a mental health disorder. It's a mental health disorder that alters the brain because of the chemical imbalances, and that's now where you bring clinical depression in perspective. Yeah. So yeah, I think we need to also be able to understand what it is so that we can be able to deal with it. Yes. Yeah.
Brian, have you ever misused that word? You look like you've ever
Depressed.
said you're depressed
Personally,
when
no.
you were just sad.
Personally, no, because I'm one type of person whom, the way I've oriented my life, I can't say I've ever been stressed, because I try and make sure that whatever condition that I'm going through, if it's something that I can handle, I handle it. If it's something that I can't handle, I leave it to God. That's my motto. Yeah. If I can't handle it, I can't. So if it's beyond me, it's beyond me. Yeah. Because that's one of the thing, or one of the factors that I think leads people to depression. Because you are there, you're feeling it's as if you're a loser, you're a failure, just because you couldn't do what probably, per se, it was beyond your means. It was beyond your power. So basically, I wouldn't say I've ever used that word depressed or I'm stressed per se. But in a nutshell, I think this is what people use. Because when you speak, at times, there's power in your words. Yeah. That's one thing I've learned. There's power in your words. So once you speak it out, that I'm depressed, eventually you'll be depressed. Yeah.
Eugene, do you think stress leads to depression, or you can actually just be depressed for no reason? Is it there's always a factor that leads to depression, or since it's a mental illness, as he said, you can actually just find yourself depressed even if you're not having issues, but you find yourself just that low moment, and you can't even trace exactly what the problem is?
I'll tell you this. I'd be lying if I said I know the answer to that, because I don't know how I cannot tell you for sure how those things follow or what comes first. I cannot tell you for sure what leads up the symptoms, but I can tell you what to look out for. I can tell you the triggers is one of the things. Triggers for you, those are the things you should look out for. Triggers to that state of mind. The reason I got into this, the reason why I'm on this panel in the first place, not because of the TV side. It's because above everything else, I am a mental health advocate. And I prioritize that over anything, because personally I was diagnosed with severe depression and anxiety a while back. So I have, since then, it's been a couple of years down the line, and I've put myself in the field with different organizations, trying to reach out people, get suicide hotlines, emergency hotlines, and I've met so many people with different disorders besides depression. Yeah. Most people think depression is the most leading, it is the leading cause of suicide. But there are other issues. There's bipolar disorders. There's so many other issues in the mental health space that we don't look out for. And yes, we do misuse the word depression a lot. So the first step, I think, for me, is see a professional. If somebody comes to you, or you know somebody who might be, you notice their state of mind is not exactly where you know them. First things first, if somebody opens up to you, the biggest mistake people make is throwing an opinion at a subject, right? If somebody comes to you, it's because for some reason they felt the space is safe to open up, right? Yeah. So the first thing is keep your opinion to yourself and keep that space open to talk to, right? Yeah. So yeah, that's pretty much my take on it. I'm not exactly a professional, but I've dealt with enough on my own end to see what the signs are.
And since you're speaking from experience, when is the first time you actually realized you're depressed? And did you realize it, or someone had to point it out?
Unfortunately for me, it came after my first suicide attempt. That was in 2017. It was around the time, remember when we were switching, the local media was switching to digital signal, and you'd hear guys getting laid off like rumors. So I was with I was in local at the time, And unfortunately, I missed the first cut. Fortunately, I missed the first cut, second cut, and you think, hey, I've survived. It's the end of the year. Unfortunately, the third one got me. So I went without work for a while, depleted savings and a lot, the type of, what goes with unemployment, trying to make ends meet. So I won't get into the story of my suicide attempt. I've spoken about that on many shows, but just on this one, allow me to skip it. So the first time I revisited mental health was about 3 months later. And in those 3 months, I remember by that time I'd gotten a new job. And that week alone, 4 people, separate people, I know none of them, but 4 people in Kenya, not abroad, had taken their own lives. 2 university students and 2 primary school. So what does that tell you? What's reducing is not the number of suicides, it's the age gap that's ensuring that they take their own lives, right? And where does that start? What does that tell us? That the system, first of all, is failing us. There's an issue with the system because when you think about it, there's only one institution that's supposed to serve the entire country, right? And look at the state of Mathare itself. Yeah. We all know, as in being in the news, we know that towards the end of last year, the president initiated the formation of a mental health task force, right? Yeah. And as a journalist, as a mental health advocate, the president spoke from a point of concern, realizing the situation that we were in. On a personal note, I'll just go ahead and say it and be frank. The handling of the task force has been nothing than expected. It has been completely awful. For starters, it seemed that the criteria to be on the task force, you had to have the name doctor in your title. Yeah. Well, we agreed for the first mental health conference last year in August that we'd have inclusivity of different sectors, media, agriculture, different groups to have input in how to handle this, because this is not just a medical issue that you throw meds at. Yeah. Issues like depression is not something you just shove meds at. It's something we need to get to the core root of. Yeah. So yeah, basically, it's the things that we need to start by looking at our law. The penal code states that suicide, in one sentence, suicide is criminalized. Yeah. That undermines every effort we make, any effort the government makes, any effort any NGOs make, because nobody will report it. In fact, what you're telling us is you'd better get your suicide right, otherwise you'll end up in handcuffs.
Yes.
What kind of law is that? Yeah. It's counterproductive to anything we try to do. Yeah. So yeah, that's my 2 cents.
Although,
which brings me to my next question.
Yes.
Okay, but first you can go first.
Although I would want to dispute this fact, because one thing I know is that the law in itself, it is put there to counter this, to counter suicides, because you're taking your life. Did you give life to yourself? No, you didn't. You see.
So then you're trying to say you have no.
You have no right to take your own life. Because depression, the history of depression, we can trace it back all the way back to the Bible, because we have so many people in the Bible, so many characters in the Bible who lived with depression and overcame. That's one thing people are not told, because the society, the way you said, the society, the values in the society, they have been degrading by the day. We want to copy the West, you see. But the values, that good book, if you read it, Job was depressed. Why? Because life had beaten him down. You see, David is a good example of a person who was depressed, because if you read the Psalms, he expressed his heart. He told God how down he was, you see. And I think this is one of the measures or one of the ways, if somebody is depressed out there, just take the Bible, read it. It will encourage you, because at times when you talk to people, you might be talking to somebody who hasn't passed through that condition, doesn't know, has no idea of what happens when you're depressed. But when you read through the scriptures, I believe that book will speak to you.
What of people who don't believe in the Bible?
Yeah, you see,
where would they run?
That's why I'm saying. You might not believe in the Bible. Yeah. I do believe in the Bible. But I believe even the Quran, the only part where the Quran and the Bible go amiss is where the fact of Jesus coming, dying on the cross and everything. But when you read through the Old Testament and you read the Quran, it almost goes hand in hand. So you'll find that there are stories which are in the Bible, there are stories which are in the Quran, which will help you understand. By reading through people's stories, you'll be able to understand, okay, so-and-so went through this. Abraham was depressed at some point. You see, Abraham is the father of faith, the father of all nations. You see, so if Abraham was depressed, Abraham was the father of Ishmael. Ishmael, it's believed that Muslims originated from the tribe of Ishmael. So it means, as a Muslim, you can relate to the story of Abraham in the way of Ishmael. If you are a Christian, you can believe in the Bible through Jacob. And you see, it's just that I think we are moving away from, because we don't want to be religious per se, but the good book is there for us all. It's one of the oldest book in history. Why? Yeah.
But do you think the Bible can help just by reading it, or you need to take other measures, like see a psychologist, of course, be on medication?
This is my perspective. Personally, I'm a born-again Christian. I believe in the Bible. And the Bible, one of the things that I know about faith, the issue of faith is it comes hand in hand with dealing with the issues of life problems. For example, an issue of like mental condition or something like depression. Research has been made, and the people who have let me put it in quotes, a religious inclination have a better chance of dealing with mental health problems than the people who don't have. Because what that does is, for example, if you're a Christian, you believe in a higher faith, in a higher power, power that is beyond you, power that is bigger than you. So when you believe in it, it can help you to be able to cope. That doesn't mean you don't need to seek help, because there is a reason why God gave, people gifts who can help you be able to deal with that problem that you are having. For example, a psychiatrist, or for example, a psychologist. This is because, for example, if it's clinical depression, you need medication. And if you don't take medication, it might escalate and lead to very, very serious conditions. So that's where now seeking medical help comes in, where you now, of course, you have faith, but you also go and get treated, because treatment is what is going to also contribute to you getting better. So I think it's also it's good for those guys who don't believe in Christianity or Muslim. I mean, there are people who believe in science and all that, and universe. I've had people talk about universe. That whatever you believe in, whether you believe that's what gives you power. I think it's all comes down to what God created here on earth, because we all found the earth and the heavens here. So whatever you believe in, as long as it's a higher power, it has it will help you to be able to handle it. But also, it's also good to seek help, because I've had cases of where people who are having, can you imagine you're having a mental disorder, for example, like ADHD, where you have, it's called attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. And then you go to church, and that's where you go to seek help. And this thing actually makes you not be able to live normally, because of how your mental or your brain works. Because it's like, for example, they say ADHD people have a mind of a Ferrari and brakes of a bicycle. So you can imagine that person now going to just seek help through the church. You see, that would really not solve the root problem, because the root problem is them being able to understand what condition they have and being able to get medication on how they can manage, because mental disorders can be managed. Some of these things, it's because of our biological, our chemical, biochemical, reactions, composition. So, for example, and others are even genetic. You find that from your lineage, people have suffered major mental disorders, and you find, because we come from that, because of the genetics, you acquire it. So some of these things require psychiatrists and psychologists to be able to help you to know how to manage, and now you can add your faith. I think that's my take.
Let me just interrupt a few.
Yeah.
I've been listening to this religious part for a few, and I've been
Yeah.
itching to cut in.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
The part where we disagreed on, first of all, God helps those who help themselves. Secondly, the law on suicide being criminalized. You cannot say it's there to help us. Let me put a case scenario here. January, the video that trended of the young man who tried to hang himself on the street light outside Mission Center. Go back to the month of November, the young girl who took her own life because her geography teacher shamed her for allegedly cheating on a geography exam. The young girl who took her life in the same month of November for being shamed for getting her first period. The lawyer in Mombasa who threw himself off a building in the same month of November. So let's take the scenario where those people
the pastor
survived.
who killed himself and the wife in church.
You see, now you know the scenarios.
Yeah.
Where does handcuffs help them? Compared to the idea of the countries that do not have a law criminalizing suicide that can actually encourage people to report their cases, seek help actively. It's a backward and just a law that should not
Because
exist.
by arresting someone, I mean, how is it supposed to help them? Now you're in prison, so now you're even more depressed because now your life is just. Because I believe it's just a disease like even alcoholism. People don't understand that alcoholism is a disease.
Actually,
Most times people are just like, oh, ndio ameamua
Actually,
kunywa." That's the
alcoholism
problem.
and any kind of addiction, that's a form of depression in its own. You see, because people tend to think that
That's where
they take depression as a very big word.
Yeah.
That I have to be so low, I'm almost on the verge of committing suicide. That's when I can say I'm depressed. No. Somebody who's an addict at 20, you're already addicted to drugs. You can take a whole bottle of Mzinga and you're okay. You see, there's a problem somewhere. That's something we should address. But in a nutshell, I think it's a wider debate that we can argue about. But I believe nobody has the right to take their own life.
But don't you think by the time you're taking your own life, you're not even yourself. You're not in your actual state of mind. It's like you're someone
It's
else.
actually-
So you're not, making that decision based on.
It's true. Looking at it, when somebody reaches a point where they are taking their life, they are completely hopeless and helpless. And for them, they think the only solution for them to stop that pain, it's stopping the pain they are in, stopping the surrounding circumstances that they are in, is to just not be there, So I think there's a need for us also to, I think there's a need for the law to be reviewed and see a way where we can, address this matter of mental health and suicide and depression in a way that people are able, because people don't come out, as Eugene says. People are afraid. For example, if somebody has tried to commit suicide, they will not just go and say it because of course, they fear being arrested and all that. So I think something needs to be done. Something needs. I think, something needs to be done. And even he talked about the task force. I mean, it's how do you call people who don't know what is happening on the ground to come and start talking about what we should do about this problem that is facing us in this
I'll be
country.
frank. It took nudging to get the task force, because when I heard the first list of the task force came out, it took nudging to get them to even listen, to include people like caregivers, and which in the end they did towards the end of what they were
And
concluding.
psychologists as well, they were not involved,
They were not.
Yeah.
So towards the end is when they included only one caregiver, and that's after we nudged them long enough for weeks as they were doing the research was done in 2 weeks. In 2 weeks, you want to tell me you collected the opinion of the entire country. In 2 weeks, in public participation forums that were filled with so much controversy. You know what, I'd go on, but at this point it will look like I'd have a personal agenda.
But honestly, what I think by addressing the issue, what we need to do as a country, it's at least address societal problems. Problems like unemployment. Problems like, because actually unemployment is the biggest factor. Considering so many guys who are committing suicide due to depression and all that, they are from the ages of 14 to 29, thereabout. It shows you the kind of society we are living in. If you're 14 years, what will push you to do what? To commit suicide? What will cause you to be depressed? Probably in school, you're being bullied. You see? Probably in school, there's something that is happening in school. You're being victimized in school. If you're not in school, probably you're in campus. You're in campus, you're living that life, which is a lie, because most of your friends you hang around with, they are probably from this wealthy family. You see,
and you also want to live that life.
You want to live that life. You want
to
to go on Instagram. You want to also post something. But when you look at the kind of people you're following on Instagram, on social media, they seem to be miles away, ahead of you. You see, I think the problems, unemployment, and in itself as a problem, as a society, if government is really interested in solving this problem, so many guys are being pushed to the wall because of unemployment. You don't have a job. You have a relationship probably you need to maintain. There's a lady you're supposed to do affair. You see, it becomes very hard, you see, especially for the boy child, because right now we are talking as men here.
As a man,
you see,
yeah.
the boy child, because we have empowered so much the girl child to an extent that the boy child is left us. You see, we are forgetting that this boy child needs to be empowered. This boy child, we are saying that a man is the head of the home. Yet, this boy or this man doesn't have a job. Then the wife probably has a job. She's the one who's providing. It looks like she's the one who is in charge of everything. You won't have a voice in that home. What do? You bottle it up and sit. It piles up, then what happens? You're depressed.
And that actually, let me add to what he's saying. That actually brings me to the way we are raised as men. You know, when you grow up, you are told, you know, men don't cry. You know, suck it up. You know, and as you said, women are as they grow up, they are trained how to communicate, how to talk. It's very hard for men. Men actually, I think one of the biggest problems that men have is not being able to communicate, to talk, you know, and it's something that leads now to men, you know, bottling it up and finally, you know, sinking into depression, and then the expectations of the society. As he says, a man is supposed to be the provider. A man is supposed to, you know, be the head of the family. But now there are these other issues, you know, joblessness, you know, sometimes a man cannot even provide for his own family, or is in business and the businesses are not working. And what do men do? They are not able to talk. They feel like, you know, if I go and tell another man, they feel like I'm not a man enough. So they just, you know, bottle it up and it becomes now something else. So what I think we should encourage is, let's encourage these conversations, you know, men, you know, to talk, because it's one of the things that can help. And then also, as men, we have this competitive kind of a thing, you know, you want to seem like you are doing better, and competition has led to so many men feeling, you know, depressed and down, because you look at your peers, they are doing better than you are, and you start feeling low, and you start feeling like you are nobody. And I don't think it should be like that. We all have a journey. Everyone has their own journey. This thing of comparison, I think it's not a good thing, and sometimes it comes even when we are when we are growing up. You're told, you know, you should be like so and so. You want to be like, you know, why can't you be like Nani's child? You know, that thing is, and these things are the ones that are affecting men. So it's very, very, very important for us to understand that we need to talk these things out. We need to start these conversations out, and they are anxious.
Okay, Sawa. Just hold that thought there. We need to take a short commercial break. This conversation is very heated. Talk to us. The hashtag is KTN Life and Style. Tell us, have you ever been depressed? Tell us what you feel about depression, and if it's actually fair for the system to arrest people who try commit suicide, like try take their own lives and fail at it, then you end up getting arrested. Do you think that's fair? Let us know. The hashtag is KTN Life and Style. We're here at Azuri Best Western Hotel, Signature Mall along Mlolongo. Make your way here. It's a beautiful, beautiful place. Amazing space, amazing furniture. The rooms are just to die for. You guys just make your way here and you'll see what I'm talking about. We need to take a short commercial break, so do not move, do not touch that dial. See you after the break.